Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Independent Thought. My name is Desmond Price. Thank you for showing up for another episode here to my podcast. Welcome to new listeners and welcome back to my subscribers. This will be my final episode before my mid-season break, which I'll talk about again at the end of the episode. But the next 2 weeks, you will not be seeing new episodes from Independent Thought. So just be aware of that. Our next episode will be on October the 11th. So make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss our return to the podcast. But jumping right into this episode, we are talking today about booster shots for coronavirus. The COVID-19 booster shots have been a hot topic going on in our news cycle recently, so I wanted to take a minute here to talk about them. Some of the sources I'm using for today's episode include Time, Fox News, Yahoo, CNBC, the New York Times, Breaking Points, and the BBC. So let's just jump right into this. Back, I think this was August 18th or 19th. It was roughly about a month ago. The Biden administration, President Biden himself announced that his administration would like to see Americans, basically for the entire general public, start to get booster shots. I think it was 6 months after you've received your second dose. Now, this immediately sent so many people into a frenzy, sparked a bunch of conspiracy theories, sparked lots of outrage on the political right. And yeah, it was a very controversial statement for some people, and other people were also very happy to hear this, thinking that this will be a good thing overall, as there have been some reports coming out about the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccines long term. We'll get into that in a minute. But I personally understood why the Biden administration was asking for booster shots to be available in general. You know, the pandemic is still going on, even though when you look around life in America right now, if you're watching football games on Saturdays or Sundays, it would seem as though many people in our country just no longer think that COVID is an issue, even though the death toll now is currently higher than it was a year ago today. 670,000 Americans have died from COVID. Across the globe, that number is close to 5 million. And so, yeah, I understand the need for trying to go out and promote booster shots, getting people more protected from this virus. You know, with all that being said, though, like where exactly did this come from? Because if you check back on the clock about like 2 months ago, actually, I'm sorry, not 2 months ago, maybe about like 3 or 4 months ago now, we were all in the belief system that if enough people just get vaccinated, that this is all going to go away. However, the Delta variant seemed to have other, plans for us globally. The Delta variant is a mutation of the original coronavirus variants. It first popped up in December of 2020 in India and is now the dominant strain in several nations across the world. I think currently it is the dominant strain in more than 12 nations, and it's projected to overtake the original Alpha variant here in America in the upcoming weeks, if not, months, if not weeks. That is the current projection of what we are seeing here in our country. And we are just not entirely sure, because we don't have enough data at the moment, just how effective our vaccines are going to be long-term against the Delta variant. From what we're seeing so far, studies are showing that the Pfizer vaccine continues to be around 88% effective against Delta. However, it is also showing that at the same time, that over time, the vaccine seems to be weakening a little bit. How much so is still unsure, as studies are still being done. We are in real time trying to conduct, tests, compile data And so all this is happening in real time. But, before I go any further into this episode, I'm going to be talking about my feelings on booster shots, but I kind of want to just kind of put all my cards on the table here. I understand, again, the reason that we need to be advocating for people to get vaccinated, why so many people are probably going to need booster shots, especially those who are elderly or immunocompromised. I'm in no way, shape, or form against vaccinations. I have 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine coursing through me right now that have been there for months. And so I get it. I understand. I think that people should get vaccinated. And currently we don't have herd immunity in this country, not anywhere close. Currently, 55% of Americans are vaccinated. So we're definitely not close to that herd immunity number. But when it comes to booster shots for everyone, for the entire general public, I'm a little skeptical. I'm not going to lie to you all. I think it's not because I don't think that certain people need it. I know that certain people do need it. Again, the elderly, the immunocompromised. But generally speaking, and it's not that I don't think that it wouldn't be a good thing for everyone, but it feels a little immoral. I can't lie to you. And here's my reasoning for it. Currently, 57% of the global population has not received a single dose of the vaccine. Not one. On top of that fact, 75% of all vaccine doses have gone to just 10 countries. Just 10. That's it. In fact, if you want to dive a little bit deeper into the statistics, only 2% of the entire continent of Africa has been vaccinated. That is 1.2 billion people in that continent across all 53 nations in Africa. So we're talking, roughly speaking, 24 million people in the continent of Africa. Please don't call it a country. I hate when people do that. Just dumb. Anyway, 24 million people approximately across the entire continent of Africa have been vaccinated. And that is compared to 182 million people who've been vaccinated just in our country, just in America. We have nearly 8 times the amount of vaccinated people in America than that whole continent has. It doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me that we as a nation are lining up to get our 3rd shot for, again, not for the elderly, not for the immunocompromised. Those people, go get your booster shots. But for everyone else, it feels immoral that we're lining up for our 3rd shot when so many people in the world haven't had their first yet. And let's talk about what we're talking about here, because the vaccine is supposed to be a protection from coronavirus, right? And so we're trying to get these vaccines in people so that if they come into contact with the virus, that they don't get hospitalized or possibly, die from this virus. And so who's more likely to be devastated by contracting coronavirus? The average American or the average person living in a poor nation in Africa? What kind of facilities do we have? What kind of facilities do they have? So obviously, and thankfully, I'm not the only person who feels this way. The World Health Organization has asked these Western nations, including the US, to put a moratorium on booster shots until the end of the year. Now, this is not just people saying this abroad, but also here at home as well. As reports out of the New York Times have said that some in the FDA rejected that all Americans need booster shots. And then on top of that fact, 2 members actually announced their resignation from the FDA. And then later, these 2 same people went and published into a medical journal, basically them denouncing the Biden administration for its booster shot policy. Now, these were not the only 2 people to feel this way. Obviously, I'm sure that some people have seen now that the FDA, while it did approve booster shots for the elderly, again, and the immunocompromised, they also at the same time, their panel rejected in a vote of 16-2 against saying that booster shots should be administered to the general public. And one of the reasons that they said that they voted against this was them saying there was actually several reasons, but two of the reasons that they noted was one, they just didn't have enough evidence at the moment to say that booster shots were necessary for the general public. But also they noted that, and I'm glad that they said this, that less than 1% of low income countries have been fully vaccinated, saying that that's a major problem. And to my answer being, duh, of course it's a major problem. This vaccine, I'm sorry, this virus isn't localized to America. If it is mutating in some other part of the world, it'll eventually make its way here. I mean, that's what happened with Delta, right? We're hearing that now with other mutations. Lambda popped up a few months ago. I mean, who knows if this will mutate again? There's like a Delta plus version right now, which I gotta say, as far as names are concerned, that's pretty weak. We need to be fixing these names here. Delta plus, what is it, a streaming service? Sorry, getting off track here. It is obviously a major problem. We need to be finding a way to get the rest of the world vaccinated, or at least they should have the access to get vaccinated. This is something that I thought that most people were on board with. Now, I was looking at an article from the BBC back in May where they had, spoken with several world leaders who seemed like the one consensus that they all had together about how to deal with coronavirus was the fact that it was of the utmost importance that vaccines be distributed globally, saying that we are not protected until everyone has access to this vaccine. Now, some epidemiologists believe that the herd immunity level for the globe is around 70%. Now, are we anywhere close to that right now? The answer is no, it's absolutely not. And so how do we get that number up? One of the things that I heard that was recommended before was that we should be getting rid of patent protections, because currently there are several companies who have the formula to these COVID-19 vaccines, but they're unwilling to share them with several other facilities around the world because, well, they haven't really given too many answers as to why they feel that way. But it's very unfortunate, because if they did that, then more facilities could start administering the vaccine, and then we could be getting much larger quantities of the vaccine out to people all over the world. And obviously, there were several countries that felt this way as well. In fact, India and South Africa, most notably, proposed to the World Trade Organization last year that patents on vaccines should be waived, which was then rejected by several Western nations and other big pharma companies. And, the reasoning that they gave, which, to be fair, seemed a little fair. I don't know the actual truth behind this or not, but, I'm just going to just go ahead and say what they said. When they were speaking to the BBC, they said that if they were to give out the recipe of the vaccine, it would be like giving out a recipe for a dish without having any ingredients or instructions or the people capable of reproducing it. They claimed that the mRNA vaccines are incredibly complex, and that some of these vaccines, like the technology behind it, took over a decade to develop, so that even if you had the facility, like, you would still not have the people or who had the wherewithal to actually create the vaccine, even if they had all the ingredients. And then on top of that, there was also saying that, like, some of the ingredients might not be available to certain people around the world. I don't know if that is inherently true or not. I'm just telling you what was reported. But here's my thing. If that is true, that there's not enough skilled scientists out there who know how to produce vaccines like this, and that the ingredients for these vaccines isn't widely accessible to other people around the world, then that's where our focus should be. That's where our focus should be. If the goal is to eradicate COVID-19, or at least get it manageable enough to a point where we are bringing down this climbing death toll that we're seeing all over the world, then why aren't we investing into that? Instead, what we seem to be investing into, or what we say we're investing into, is an organization called COVAX. Now, COVAX is supposed to be, again, an organization that's supposed to be distributing vaccines across the globe right now. And to date, COVAX has distributed around 240 million doses of the vaccine across the world to 139 different countries. Now that's a pretty big number. And on top of that fact, when the NIH director appeared on Fox News recently, he also spoke to this because he was asked by Chris Wallace, again, do you believe that it's moral that Americans are lining up for their third booster shot while so many other people in the world have not gotten their first one? The NIH director noted the fact that that this was, in fact, he said it in his words, that was a false choice, and that America is going out of its way right now to donate to entities like COVAX, saying that America has already donated 140 million doses to COVAX and plans to donate another 500 million more. So here's the issue I have with this, because he also went on to say that there was no reason not to do booster shots here in America, because at most, what he said was, at the end of this year, we probably would maybe dish out 100 million. And I'll link the video to this interview down in the description below, but it was really weird the way he said it, because he was trying to downplay it, like, oh, well, we'll only be administering around 100 million. I mean, it's not that big of a number if we do booster shots here in America. But he said that alongside of saying that we've donated 140 million to COVAX, as if that's some large number. So it's very strange to kind of hear the director of the NIH kind of talk about this issue. But here's the thing, truthfully speaking, if we were going to vaccinate the whole world, right? I mean, that would be around 14 billion doses if they were all Pfizer. Let's just keep it simple. If we were going to vaccinate the world, we would need around 14 billion doses of Pfizer. If you want to get herd immunity, you need somewhere north of like 5 billion. I'm sorry. No, you would need somewhere north of 10 billion, actually, doses in order to get herd immunity globally. So if you need around 10 billion doses globally, and you're bragging about the fact that we've gotten 140 million so far, and you're planning on donating another 500 million, so total 640 million doses, when you need 10 billion to reach herd immunity, there's kind of something lacking there. There's just a little bit lacking there. Maybe someone needs to kind of rethink our investments to the global population as far as what they need in order for us to reach herd immunity, because truthfully, that's what it's going to take in order for us to finally turn the page on this pandemic. Because we can talk day and night about what we're doing here in America, but honestly, it doesn't quite matter enough if the rest of the world isn't becoming vaccinated. Now, with all that being said, COVAX is trying to do what it can to get these poorer nations vaccinated, but unfortunately, what they're saying is that they just currently don't have enough funding. They were counting on the richer nations of the world to donate more vaccines to them, and it just seems as though wealthy nations like the US are just not donating enough. COVAX originally wanted the poorer nations of the world to be receiving vaccines at the same rate as the richer nations. That's not happening. On top of that fact, they wanted to have 2 billion doses administered globally by the end of 2021. And like I said earlier, they've only done so far 240 million. So they're not getting to that 2 billion number by the end of the year. On the current path, it is said that the poorer nations of this world probably won't even get above a 50% vaccination rate until 2023. So the bottom line is we're not doing enough. That's really the bottom line. That's the point that I'm trying to get to right now. We are talking about booster shots here in America because we are trying to have people protected from the virus. But what I'm trying to say here, and this is something that I said on a panel episode that I did recently, is if we're really taking this seriously, if you really want to protect yourself from COVID-19, if that is truly what our goal is, we're not going to accomplish that just by focusing on 10 nations and making sure that 10 nations are super vaccinated while we leave the rest of the world just hanging on by a thread. Nothing is going to stop this virus from mutating in other parts of the world and then making its way here, to which our current vaccines become obsolete because they weren't designed for these new mutations that might pop up. I don't need to be an epidemiologist to see how logical that is. It's just common sense at this point. If we are not investing as thoroughly in the rest of the world as we are here in America, then this is all going to be for naught. So I'm not sure exactly what the Biden administration plans to do to help the rest of the globe. I'm not sure what big pharma is going to do. I'm not sure exactly what people in general are going to do to help COVAX get more vaccines in the hands of people globally. But what we're doing currently is just not enough, everyone. And I personally, again, when it comes to booster shots, I do feel uncomfortable with people going and getting their third shot if they're not elderly or immunocompromised, while the rest of the world is literally hanging on by a thread. So that is my take on booster shots. If you have a differing opinion, please send me a DM, comment on this episode, and tell me what you think about booster shots. I'm not sure exactly what's going to come next, but it sounds like the Biden administration is meeting with several world leaders here this week in order to discuss booster shots and other types of vaccine plans. So I'm sure that by the time this episode comes out and people listening to it, that there might be an update on information that I gave in this episode. So just keep up with the news, everyone. The sources I had for this episode will be in the description. So please go ahead and check out those sources, read up on the articles, listen to the videos that are posted. And if you have any questions, reach out to me and let's talk about booster shots, because we need to figure out what we're doing with our global vaccine plan, truthfully speaking. With all that being said, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will have my guest for this week for a brand new conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back from the break, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us through this episode of Independent Thought. I want to say, if you are not already, please follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Independent Thought. That is the best way to keep up with the podcast if you are not currently a member of my Discord, which I highly recommend that everyone is. You can find the link to my Discord in my link tree, wherever you are following me on social media. I want to say thank you to my guest, Zach, the host of the Plaid Jacket Philosopher podcast. I look forward to your return to the podcast very shortly here in an upcoming panel. We'll talk about that in a second. First, I want to mention the fact that, again, this is my last episode before my mid-season break. The next 2 weeks, there will be no new episodes of Independent Thought. But when we return, you will have some brand new episodes. But in the meantime, there will be some new content. Not new Independent Thought episodes, but some new content nonetheless. And that will be on YouTube, everyone. So make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, the link to which is below in the episode description. I will have YouTube exclusive content that will be on YouTube, but not on the actual podcast itself. I know that you know what exclusive means. I just had to say that anyway. But my point is that there will be some new stuff on YouTube. There will be candidate episodes that will be exclusive to YouTube. There will also be panel episodes that will be exclusive to YouTube. And I am really looking forward to these panel episodes. I hope that you all turn out for them. The last couple, did pretty decently on YouTube for my really small YouTube channel. So I think that, it should be even better going forward as I continue to get more and more subscribers. If you are not currently subscribed on YouTube, please click the button. It's free. Just click the button, click the subscribe button, click the little bell next to it, and then you will always be notified of new episodes because YouTube doesn't always notify people of new episodes unless you click that bell. So click the bell, people. So we will be returning with new episodes on October 11th. If you have any thoughts about this episode, previous episodes, any episodes from season 4 so far, please go ahead and DM me. We are halfway through this season. If any of the first 13 episodes have caught your attention in some way, drop me a message. Let me know what you thought of them. Please subscribe to the podcast, both on audio versions, Apple, Spotify, video versions, YouTube. And if you like any episode that you hear, please share it on social media. It's the best way to get this podcast to grow. Thank you again for tuning into this episode, for tuning into the first 13 episodes of season 4. Thank you so much. I will see you all on October the 11th for the 75th episode of Independence Thought. See you then.